Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of My Dog Will Eat My Face. This episode is going to be a little different in a number of ways. I've already touched on the topic of being alone versus being lonely and solitude. And I wish to retouch that a little bit because even though I've addressed this in the past and that I do prefer solitude, I'm not unlike my most favorite author, Christopher Hitchens, and that I actually appreciate solitude. I get bucked up, so to speak, by solitude in my day-to-day life. And just because I'm alone doesn't mean that I'm lonely. This has been my general state probably my whole life, I would honestly say. I don't know. I don't know if the right term is a loner. I'm hesitant to use that term. Because suddenly there's an image of some dude hanging around a bar drinking by himself. But that's not necessarily a good image I wish to cultivate. But truth being told, throughout my whole life, even though I've been alone in many cases, I've not been lonely. And as it comes to relationships, in particular romantic relationships, I absolutely must testify that I do prefer being single. And I don't know if there's many people like that out there in this world that are like me. I know a lot of friends and family, of course, that absolutely adore to have someone who is their better half to stay with, to be with, to get support by. And throughout my entire livelihood, throughout decades, I've honestly preferred just to be alone. That's not to say I don't think I'm a loner per se, but I just don't want all the drama, all the static, all the baggage that comes with having a relationship. And that's me just being honest. But there was a dramatic change, I want to say. Well, maybe not a change, but there was a dramatic event that occurred just this last Friday. And I'll explain it to you, my dear listeners, and why I bring this up now. Since I was terminated from my job, I have the right to convert my life insurance to a policy that I can afford and can cover my family members and those who are close to me. And obviously that's something right now at this particular juncture in my life, it's extremely important. Life insurance, when I am facing my own demise, is obviously very important to me. So I don't think that's any shock. So last Friday, I decided to steadfastly dig in and work on the conversion from my employer's life insurance to a new policy that could cover my loved ones and my family members. And I think that's as to be expected. I would say that's pretty innocuous. But this revealed an enormous vulnerability that I have skirted my whole life, so to speak, and one that I don't think I can avoid for much longer. Because as I was going through this process of conversion and going through all the paperwork and oh my gosh, the dozens of phone calls I was involved in, and just the constant work throughout the whole day, honestly, on Friday to get this set up, I came to a very painful realization. And that realization is that if my physical abilities decline even a little bit, and I'm not saying dramatic declines like, say, I can't use the restroom anymore, or I can't shower myself anymore, or something profound like that, but just cognition decline, or something like that were to occur, how will I be able to fight for things such as something so simple as a life insurance conversion? Because I'll tell you, when I went through my dozens of phone calls on Friday, and through the hard work and the filling out of the forms and trying to solve the various problems and arithmetic that I was working on, it became apparent to me that should I decline much further, I am going to be in some very dire straits. And that's a very uncomfortable feeling. And to be honest, this is the first I've come to this negative feeling as I struggle to fight for something as simple as an insurance policy. It was truly shocking how difficult it was to maintain those dozens of phone calls to keep things straight, and beyond that, to walk all the way to my leasing office to see if I can't borrow a printer, because at the end of the day I had to print, sign, and mail it by U.S. mail. No other methodology was accepted. And despite how much I vented about this issue to friends and family, the cold hard facts are that no one was able to help me whatsoever. I was really left to my own demise, so to speak, throughout most of the day. I only pulled through by reaching out to a hospice volunteer who thankfully assisted me and provided to me basically a printer I could borrow and to help me mail this life insurance coverage out the door in a timely manner, when it is actually does need to be done in a timely manner. I had 20 days to get it done, and if I elapse that time period, too bad, so sad, I lose my chance of converting my life insurance. So it's pretty important. And so this Friday, it was frankly appalling to me that of all the people I know in my life, all my friends, all my family, absolutely no one could offer up a suitable assistance and offer anything that could help me get through this difficult moment. And what that tells me is that if this declines further, myself, that is if my abilities decline further, I might very well be in very poor luck and in very dire straits. And that's what I sort of wish to speak to you today in this podcast. So to even expand further on this, hopefully I haven't driven my listenership off already by just complaining. But the consequences of what happened last Friday were frankly a lot to do with my own fault. You see, I've been so independent, so alone. I've lived so fiercely independently in my life that I actually asked no one for any assistance whatsoever on Friday as well. Now, whose fault is that? That's my fault. I'm not used to that. I am not used at all to asking for help. And so I could complain and moan and groan that, hey, I was not offered any assistance, but so too I never asked for any. So there is a very significant change in paradigm that is coming that was introduced just in this grueling affair last Friday to do something what frankly should have been so simple. It was instead a crap show, being that sure, none of my friends and family had a solution. And actually, I take some of that back. Some of my friends had some solutions, like buy a printer. I think that's a good solution. I almost went that route when I decided to use the hospice volunteer. But the fact that I failed to even ask for help and keep my cool, and I was so out of sort because I was so used to being so independent, so fiercely independent, that I was just beyond words. I was beyond myself. I didn't know even how to ask for some help. That is a significant sign of fault on my behalf. And it's a sign that I have got to seriously learn to adapt. Otherwise, once these abilities decline further, even ever so slightly, they can be fantastically detrimental to my well-being. And obviously that's something I don't want. That's something my friends and family don't want. And in essence, I failed myself. So I've got to somehow come around and adapt to being able to ask for help, to not see that as a failure in myself. In fact, not asking for help is the failure. That was the failure as I see it. And I'm ashamed of it. And these events really underscored for me that I have got to reanalyze how I operate and how I can expect to function if my abilities continue to decline. And just even through stress, obviously this is a stressful time for me. And so the stress of trying to go through this process was magnified way beyond than what it was probably worthy. And so there's an attribute there as well, that I've got to be able to see it when I need help and ask for it. And beyond that, chill out. when all I have to do is ask for help. And that's a big change for me. I don't know of a good way to go about doing that because this has been the way I've lived my whole life. And it's going to be an uphill battle. So I just ask my listeners to wish me some good luck, to recognize it when I am faltering and when I'm failing myself, and when I can apply a new paradigm and overcome these issues as they do come up. Incidentally, too, going on, I will share one fun fact about myself. And I just know from experience that I've always lived best alone. That's absolutely been the truth. And what I mean by that is, even if I'm in a relationship and if I'm living with somebody, certainly I've lived with others who I was dating or even married to. I'm actually divorced, go figure. But I just know from my previous experience that I live best when I live alone. I am not a good roommate. I am not a good companion. I'm not even a good lover. I'm not a good person to stay with. I just know that firsthand, that throughout my whole life, I've just always done so much better when I was completely alone and frankly out of a relationship. If I was in a relationship, the best case scenario would be to maintain strong fences for good neighbors or something to that effect. I would not like to live with someone. I would not like to sleep with someone. Boy, that could be misconstrued. But I mean, literally, I can't stand sleeping next to somebody. I hate noises that people make when they're sleeping. I hate the snoring and the gurgling and the kicking. And so all my life I've just been one of those types of persons who I am ideally I am all by myself and live all by myself, and whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a roommate situation, whether it was in college, my best dorm situations were when I had the good fortune of having a single dorm. Those were the best for me. So, I just know I don't jive well with sharing a lot of space with others. I can go out with them. I can go to the bar. I go to the club. I go to the restaurant. Yeah, I could travel with them and have a lot of fun. But just when it comes to my home, it's just got to be my space, my own private little space. So that's something that I've learned over the years. But hey, thankfully, right now at least, that's what I have. And I am actually happy with it. I am happy with living by myself. The one exception, no surprise, is going to be my little dog. I love him dearly, and I love being with him. So he's probably the one little exception in my life. But other than that, I just don't even want to be around anyone. Roommates, dating, relationship, anything. I am just not fond of being around other people. So maybe I take that back. Maybe I am a loner. Maybe I should sit by a bar and drink by myself. God. And now, before I continue with this podcast, I have to give a little bit of warning. The rest of this podcast might get a little weird. And the reason is because I am an atheist. I don't believe in the paranormal and things like that. I think many people would infer that on their own. But lately, this is going to be weird to confess, but I have actually been hearing voices. And that is quite odd, needless to say. And it happened actually just the other day again, where I thought I heard my ex calling my name in distress. I even shouted back to him and raced around the corner to the front door thinking he was there, needing something, but when I got there, there was no one there. Now, here's the thing. In the times I have heard people calling my name and heard voices, my dog reacts too. My dog has reacted with barking and charging the door, whatever it might be, where he's going berserk because he's hearing the voices too. So that's incredibly spooky. Now, this is obviously not a paranormal podcast by any means. Again, I don't slant that way at all, but for 3 times now, at least in a row, I heard individuals call my name, and the dog reacted all 3 times, vehemently reacted. He was freaking out, and it was as clear as day, and there was nobody there. So that's a strange, weird, new occurrence too. I thought I would share with my dear listeners. If you have any ideas as to what that could be, feel free to message me or somehow. But If it was something where my dog was not reacting, I could accept it. Obviously, I have deteriorated oxygen in my brain, and I think because of that, you could certainly face hallucinations. I'm just being fair to myself. But the fact that the dog could hear it too shows me that they're not hallucinations on my part. And the cause of these voices shouting my name recently are a new, incredibly spooky event. So take that for what it's worth. So that's also in the news this week to my listeners. I can't even imagine what to do with that information. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't believe that. I don't believe in ghosts or anything crazy like that. I would believe hallucinations, but again, they're not. My dog's hearing them too, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. If you think you know what's going on, please tap me a line and reach out to me, and maybe you could reveal to me what could be causing human voices to be calling my name repeatedly as I progress through this disease. So that's some lovely new information that I did want to share as well this week. So as I move forward towards actually the closing of this week's podcast, I know it's rather brief compared to some of my other podcasts, and I do apologize for that. But I am fighting a little bit still from being ill last week and the week before that. So my most sincere apologies to my good listeners here. But I did want to update one other thing, though, that on the plus side, I've been seeing a lot of help from some of my family members lately, even though I just complained extensively about it. It's not all bad. My sister-in-law and my brother have been helping me extensively with a lot of different things, so I didn't want them to come away thinking from this episode, thinking, oh my God, I think he's complaining about us, because I'm not. I have to make sure that I don't tick people off and make them think I'm complaining about them when I'm not. So rest assured, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm not complaining about you. That's just the general, that's, I think, the general policy you can follow. So that should hopefully calm people down. If I complain about friends and family, it's probably not you because you're listening. So they've been actually helping me extensively with preparing to unfortunately fight a little bit with my ex. Like I said, I am divorced, and so that's coming forward just in time for Thanksgiving. And then we'll see how that will go. But hopefully it will die out quickly. But also, my father's helped me out considerably lately, so I have to give a big thanks to him. So I know he's another listener as well. So really, if you're listening to this podcast, if I'm complaining about anyone in particular, rest assured, it's not you. You could probably follow that verbatim right down the line, and it's true. So it's not all bad. I just wanted to point that out, and I am grateful for that. And that really leads to what I really wanted to close this podcast on, actually. And that's basically Thanksgiving. It is actually Thanksgiving week. It's coming up here. And this episode will be the quote-unquote Thanksgiving episode that will echo in the airwaves. And honestly, ever since I was a little boy, I have always loved Thanksgiving. And I know a lot of people joke about it. They call it Turkey Day. They call it things like that. And I actually hate when people call it Turkey Day, believe it or not. I don't like that term. And it's because of the messaging behind it. And no, I'm not getting into some stupid historical or non-historical lesson that was contrived dealing with the settlers and the natives or anything else for that matter. For me, Thanksgiving always had a very deep meaning, especially through the course of my life where I did have to battle through medical issues pretty much my whole existence. And it's pretty obvious why I dig Thanksgiving, and that's because it's a time to be thankful. And I'm not giving thanks to an entity. I am, I still hope I am an atheist, despite the weird voices calling my name. Hopefully I'm still, I can still qualify as an atheist despite those occurrences. But yeah, I don't give any particular thanks to an entity, to a god, to a saint, to and not even necessarily an individual for this time of year. But I've always really liked and enjoyed the idea that as a country, Americans, and Canadians too, I'll give them some cred, our good neighbors to the north, took time out of their schedules and made it a special day to give thanks and gratitude for the things that they do have in life. And I don't think that is dependent upon any sort of religiosity or anything else. I think, though, it is so important to have that gratitude and to realize just how lucky you really can be, and to take a moment and to really place a good solid thanks for those few things you do have and those things you can be proud of. And for me, that is why I have always loved Thanksgiving. Not even the food, although I'm a foodie. I love good food. That doesn't help. Or excuse me, that doesn't hurt. Doesn't help. That came out wrong. The good food does not hurt by any means. I do love the good food. But to me, that there's a whole time set aside to reflect upon what you can be thankful for and what you could have gratitude for is so important that I've truly fallen in love with the holiday again ever since I was a little boy. And this year, I am still thankful. It's another Thanksgiving for me. I get to live one more lap around the sun. And I get to be aware and full of gratitude for those things that I actually do have. I've said before, I watch some of these shows where they talk about the last survivors in the Iron Lung, or children surviving cancer, or people losing their limbs and other terrible, terrible events that they've survived. And I can't help but think to myself, there's no way I can compete with that. I am a quintessential wimp because I cannot compare to what these people are thankful for or what they can be thankful for. Because if they can find gratitude with such ill fortune befalling their lives, and if I were to complain at all, that means that I am just truly lacking the gratitude that I really should give towards my life and the few things I do have in life that I am thankful for. I am thankful for my dog, obviously. I am thankful for my friends, even though sometimes they piss me off. I most assuredly piss them off a lot too. As I just said, I'm thankful for my family that's there for me. I'm thankful for my home. I get to keep my home and pay for it. And I'm thankful, obviously, for good food. I'm thankful for a good video game. I'm thankful for good comedy. I'm thankful for a good movie. There's so much that is still a positive attribute in my life. And I get to spend another Thanksgiving reflecting on that. Despite the hardship, despite the chaos, despite my oncoming demise. And that does actually mean a lot to me. And my recommendation to everybody out there in the world, hey, if you're not American, you don't get the holidays, so it sucks to be you. But in all seriousness, you might get a chance this year, if you are celebrating Thanksgiving, to have some gratitude for what you have. And they're no small things. No things are too small. And I encourage all my listeners to take some time and to do just that. Just to take some little bit of your time and realize how lucky you are to have those few things that you do have that you can be thankful for. And although it is incredibly cheesy, I'm sure, to a lot of people, I sincerely mean it. And I just really hope that my listeners do take their time and reflect on that during this Thanksgiving week. And I want to be thankful, of course, for you folks out there for listening to my podcast. I appreciate all my listeners and your time that you give to me to express my feelings and my emotions and my thoughts. And I can't thank you enough for just giving me that little bit of time to express myself to you. And I have to remind you, of course, don't forget to follow this podcast. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you're notified of new podcasts. It still amazes me how many people still don't know how to turn on notifications. Seriously, spend the 45 seconds to turn on a notification, please. I've had to text people how to do it ad nauseum throughout this whole time of me producing these podcasts. And it still shocks me how people don't know how to turn on these notifications. So please, take the time to turn on notifications so you don't miss a podcast. And please, if you do support the channel, take time to go and visit the Patreon website. That's www.patreon.com/mydogwilleeatmyface. The description, or the link will be in the description, I should say. And there is some benefits to joining, to becoming a patron. You do get some behind the scenes. You do get to stalk yours truly, and everyone loves stalking people. How can anyone turn that down? So I encourage you to join and to support the channel and to see those photographs of me and my family and the dog that will eat my face. Who doesn't want to see that little pooch? And to follow me there. And I, again, want to thank you for your support, your time, and just for now, have a very good holiday week, and I will bid you auf Wiedersehen.